Ladies, listen up. Let me tell you something right now. When a man walks away or goes silent, it can feel like the end of the world. You start questioning everything. Was it something I said? Did I do too much? Was I not enough? But let me tell you the truth. You don't need to chase, beg, or explain yourself, because the moment you pull back, that's when he starts to feel it. See, men are simple creatures. They don't appreciate what's in front of them until it's gone, and when you give them silence, when you stop showing up for them the way you used to, they start wondering, where did she go? Is she moving on? Did she find someone better? And let me tell you something else. Men return not because they've had some grand epiphany about love. They come back because they feel the absence of your presence. They feel the void where you used to be. But here's the real question. What will you do when he comes back? See, this is where your power lies. If you spent your time during no contact glowing up, working on yourself, finding your peace, then you'll realize something. You don't even need him back. And that's when you're truly dangerous. Because a man returning doesn't mean he's changed. It doesn't mean he's ready to give you what you deserve. Sometimes he's just checking to see if he still has access to you. And that's where you get to decide. So when he comes knocking, don't just open the door because it's familiar. Look at your life. Look at your growth. Ask yourself, does he align with the woman I am becoming? If the answer is no, keep walking, keep shining, keep elevating. Because the right man, he won't need to lose you to appreciate. You men are wired to miss what they once had. It's not just a cliche, it's human nature. When something is constantly available, it's easy to take it for granted. But the moment it's gone, that's when its true value becomes clear. This is why men often don't realize what they had until they've lost it. When a man is in a relationship, he gets used to certain things. The way you support him, the way you listen, the way you make him feel like he's the most important person in the world. He may not even consciously recognize it, but he gets comfortable with your presence. He assumes you'll always be there, answering his calls, responding to his texts, showing up for him emotionally. Over time, that comfort can turn into complacency. He might stop putting in effort, stop appreciating the little things you do, and even start pulling away. When that happens, you might feel the urge to chase, to ask what's wrong, to fix things. But the truth is, nothing makes a man realize your worth faster than your absence. When you stop reaching out, when you stop making yourself so available, that's when the shift happens. The texts that used to go unanswered now feel empty. The calls that he once ignored are no longer ringing. The energy he once took for granted is no longer there. And that's when he starts to feel it. Men process emotions differently than women. Women tend to feel the loss immediately, while men take time. At first, he might feel relief. He might think he has all the freedom in the world. But as time goes on, that silence starts getting louder. The daily check-ins, the good morning texts, the warmth you provided, it's all gone. And that's when the memories start creeping in. He starts replaying the moments when you laughed together, the times you supported him when he had a bad day, the way you made him feel like he could take on the world. That's when the regret starts to build. He starts comparing you to other women and realizes that what he had with you was special. He starts wondering if he made a mistake. This is why men come back. Not necessarily because they've changed, but because they finally feel the void that your absence left behind. But here's the thing, when he does come back, it's not just about what he feels, it's about what you do with it. Because the same way he took you for granted before, he can do it again if you let him. That's why your power isn't in making him miss you. It's in deciding whether you even want him back. The absence made him realize your value, but it should also make you realize your own. When a man finally recognizes what he lost, the question isn't whether he's ready for you, it's whether you're willing to let him back into the life you built without him. No contact creates mystery in a way that nothing else can. It taps into the psychology of human nature, particularly how people respond to uncertainty and the fear of loss. When you remove yourself from someone's life, especially someone who has grown accustomed to your presence, it disrupts their expectations and forces them into a state of reflection. This is particularly true for men, who often process emotions differently than women. When a relationship is fresh, There's excitement. There's the thrill of discovery, the anticipation of each conversation, and the emotional connection that begins to form. Over time, however, as that relationship becomes more familiar, one or both partners may start to take the connection for granted. If a man starts pulling away or losing interest, it's often because he feels like he already knows everything there is to know about you. There's no urgency, no mystery. He assumes you'll always be there. But the moment you go silent, everything shifts. Humans are wired to seek closure. When something ends abruptly or without explanation, it creates an open loop in the mind. That's why cliffhangers in TV shows keep people coming back for the next episode. They need to know what happens next. The same principle applies in relationships. When a woman suddenly disappears from a man's life without begging, pleading, or demanding answers, it creates an emotional cliffhanger. He doesn't get to complete the story in his head. Instead of feeling certain about where he stands with you, he's left wondering, what happened? Why isn't she reaching out? Is she moving on? Did I make a mistake? This sense of mystery is powerful because it forces him to look inward. Without the constant reassurance of your presence, he starts to replay memories, trying to piece together what went wrong. He begins to notice the absence of your energy, your affection, your support. He realizes how much space you actually occupied in his life. And because men often don't process emotions in the moment, but rather over time, this period of silence allows those realizations to sink in deeply. No contact also works because it disrupts the dynamic. If he was the one who pulled away, he likely expected you to chase. That's what most people do when they feel someone slipping away. But when you don't, when you hold your ground and focus on yourself instead, it shocks him. It makes him question everything. Was she ever as invested as I thought? Has she already replaced me? Was I wrong to let her go? The unknown makes him uncomfortable, and that discomfort makes him want to seek answers. This is why so many men return after no contact. It's not just about missing you, it's about the fact that your silence made them confront their own feelings. It made them realize that you are not an option that will always be available. And in that realization, they start to see your value in a way they never did before. Self-improvement makes you magnetic in ways that go far beyond just attracting a man back into your life. It's about evolving into the best version of yourself, someone who exudes confidence, purpose, and self-worth. When you take the time during no contact to work on yourself emotionally, physically, and mentally, you don't just become more attractive to the person who left, you become more attractive to the world. Emotional growth. The power of detachment and confidence, one of the most powerful transformations you can undergo during no contact, is emotional growth. When you step away from a relationship, you have the opportunity to regain clarity about who you are outside of that connection. Many people become emotionally dependent on their relationships, using them as a source of validation or happiness. But when you focus on emotional self-improvement, you develop a level of confidence and self-assurance that is unshakable. Emotional growth means learning to regulate your emotions instead of being reactive. It means no longer seeking closure from someone else, but instead creating it for yourself. It means shifting from a mindset of I need them to feel complete to I am complete within myself. That kind of emotional security is magnetic. It makes people curious. They start to wonder how you became so at peace, so composed. If you were once someone who would beg for attention or overanalyze their every move, and now you carry yourself with grace and detachment, it disrupts the entire dynamic. When a man sees that you are no longer emotionally tied to him, it triggers something deep inside him. He starts wondering why he no longer has the same effect on you. That's when he begins to feel the loss on a whole new level. He expected you to be the same person, to remain in the same emotional space. But now he's confronted with the reality that you've outgrown that version of yourself. Physical growth. The unspoken power of transformation. Taking care of yourself physically is not about revenge or proving anything to anyone. It's about showing up for yourself in a way that makes you feel unstoppable. Whether it's working out, dressing better, or simply carrying yourself with more confidence, people can sense when someone has stepped into their power physically. When you start prioritizing your health and well-being, you radiate a different kind of energy. You walk with more confidence, your posture improves, and your body language exudes self-assurance. It's not just about losing weight or changing your appearance, it's about how you feel in your own skin. If a man sees you after a period of no contact and notices a visible change in your physical presence, maybe you're glowing, your energy is vibrant, and you look happier, it makes him take a second look. He remembers you, but now you're an upgraded version of yourself, and that alone makes you unforgettable. Mental growth, becoming a woman of substance. Your mindset is the foundation of your self-improvement. When you invest in learning, expanding your knowledge, and developing new interests, you naturally become more intriguing. A woman who is constantly growing mentally is someone who never stays stagnant. She has depth, ambition, and purpose beyond any relationship. When you use no contact to educate yourself, develop new skills, or pursue your passions, it adds layers to your identity. You're no longer just the woman he used to know. You're someone who is always evolving. That kind of growth makes you incredibly magnetic because people are drawn to those who have a sense of direction in life. Imagine a man reaching out after weeks or months of no contact, expecting you to be the same person, only to realize that you've elevated yourself in every way possible. You're no longer emotionally dependent, you look and feel better than ever, and your mindset is stronger. That realization is powerful because it shows him that you didn't just survive without him, you thrived. But the best part, by the time he realizes all of this, you may no longer even want him back because the version of you that he once knew no longer exists. And that's the ultimate power of self-improvement. He comes back to test the waters. Many men return, not because they changed, but to see if they still have a hold on you. When a man pulls away or a relationship ends, there's always a period of adjustment for both people. But what many women don't realize is that when a man returns, it's not always because he has changed, matured, or had some life-altering realization about his love for you. More often than not, he comes back to test the waters, to see if he still has access to you, if he still holds the same power over your emotions, and if you are still willing to entertain him the way you once did. This is why it's so important to understand why men come back. Because if you mistake his return for genuine change, when it's really just curiosity or ego, you risk getting stuck in an emotional cycle that leaves you drained and disappointed all over again. Why does he test the waters? Men operate on patterns. If a man is used to you always being there, always answering his calls, and always forgiving his behavior, he assumes that no matter how much time has passed, he can still slip back into your life without any consequences. When you go into no contact and remove yourself from his reach, it disrupts that pattern. At first, he may not react. He may even think you'll eventually break and reach out. But when you don't, curiosity starts to creep in. He starts wondering, does she still care about me? Has she moved on? Can I still get her attention when I want it? Is she really over me, or is she just playing hard to get? A man's ego often plays a huge role in why he returns. It's not always about love. Sometimes it's about reassurance. If he can get you to respond, even in the smallest way, it confirms to him that he still has a place in your life. That's why many men don't come back with grand gestures or deep emotional confessions. Instead, they send a simple text, "Hey, how have you been?" Or "I was just thinking about you." These messages seem harmless, but they serve one purpose: to gauge your reaction. How to recognize when he's just testing you. There's a difference between a man who comes back because he genuinely realizes your worth and a man who comes back just to see if you'll let him in again. Pay attention to his actions. He reaches out casually without real depth. If his message is vague and lacks sincerity, like a random "hey" or "miss you," is likely just a test. A man who has truly reflected on his mistakes will come back with accountability, not small talk. He avoids discussing the past. If he never acknowledges what went wrong or how he hurt you, but just acts like nothing happened, he's not interested in fixing things. He's interested in keeping the door open. His effort is inconsistent. A man who truly wants to rebuild something will put in consistent effort. If he disappears after a few messages or only reaches out when it's convenient for him, He's just checking if you're still an option. He gets distant when you don't give him the reaction he wants. If he texts you and you respond neutrally, he might suddenly lose interest. Why? Because he wasn't actually trying to pursue you. He was just looking for an ego boost. Why it's important to stand your ground. If you let a man come and go from your life as he pleases, you teach him that he never has to fully commit to you. You become an option, not a priority. That's why it's crucial to recognize the difference between a man who misses you and a man who misses his control over you. The real power lies in your response. If you've spent your time during no contact focusing on yourself, growing emotionally, mentally, and physically, then you won't fall for the same breadcrumbs he used to keep you hooked. You'll be able to see his return for what it really is, a test. And when he realizes that the old version of you, the one who used to give him unlimited chances, no longer exists, that's when he'll feel the real loss. Your power is in your response. Whether you take him back or not, you set the standard for how you deserve to be treated. When a man returns after no contact, the most important moment isn't his return. It's how you respond. This is where your true power lies, because your response determines the tone of everything that follows. Whether you choose to let him back into your life or walk away for good, your decision is a reflection of your self-worth. It communicates what you will and will not tolerate. Many women make the mistake of believing that a man coming back is the victory, but the real victory is in how you handle his return. This is where you reclaim control, not by reacting emotionally, but by responding with the wisdom, confidence, and self-respect you have built during your time apart. Why your response matters more than his return. Men don't just observe what you say, they observe how you carry yourself. If he left you expecting that he could return whenever he wanted, your response to him determines whether he was right or wrong. If you immediately welcome him back without hesitation, without accountability, without proof of change, then he learns something dangerous, that he can leave, return, and still receive the same version of you. That teaches him that there are no real consequences for his actions. He will assume that no matter what he does, you will always be there. But if you respond in a way that reflects your growth, your strength, and your new standards, he will realize that the woman he once knew no longer exists. This is what creates the ultimate shift. It forces him to recognize that if he wants access to you again, he has to earn it. And if he's not willing to do that, then he will have to accept the fact that he has truly lost you. How to respond with power and self-respect. Your response should not be reactive. It should be intentional. Whether you choose to engage with him or not, how you handle the situation will determine the direction of your future, not just with him, but with yourself. Take a step back before reacting. The worst thing you can do when he reaches out is respond emotionally. If you still have unresolved feelings, you might feel excitement, relief, or even anger. But instead of reacting in the moment, take a breath and ask yourself, what do I actually want? Do you truly want to reconnect with him, or is it just the validation of his return that excites you? Do you still have trust in him, or is it just nostalgia pulling you in? Do not let temporary emotions make permanent decisions for you. Assess his intentions and actions, not just his words. A man returning isn't proof of change. His presence alone does not mean he has learned from his mistakes. So before you respond, evaluate what he is actually offering. Does he acknowledge why things ended in the first place? Is he taking accountability for his past behavior? Is he showing consistency, or is he just testing the waters? If all he offers is a, hey, how are you? After months of no contact, that is not a genuine return. That is a temperature check. He wants to see if you're still emotionally available to him. But a man who has truly changed will not come back casually. He will come back with clarity, accountability, and real effort. Set the standard for how you will be treated moving forward when you respond. Make it clear that you are not the same woman who tolerated less than she deserved. If he wants to be in your life again, the terms must be different this time. You are no longer entertaining inconsistency, empty promises, or half-hearted effort. If he cannot meet the new standard you have set, you must be willing to walk away. And this is where your power reaches its full potential. Because when a man sees that you are no longer an option unless he steps up, he will either rise to the occasion or reveal that he was never capable of giving you what you needed in the first place. Either way, you win, because you refuse to settle. What if you decide not to take him back? Many women fear that rejecting a man's return means missing out on something, but walking away is not a loss, it's a statement. It says, I deserve better and I refuse to accept anything less. When you choose yourself over a man who did not value you the first time, you send a message that you are not afraid to be alone. You are not waiting for someone to come back. You are moving forward with or without them. That kind of confidence is magnetic. It shows that your worth is not dependent on whether a man chooses you, because you have already chosen yourself. And that ultimately is what makes you truly powerful. Not his return, not his words, not his attempts to re-enter your life, but your ability to stand in your truth, demand what you deserve, and never settle for anything less.